Let's start by making some cards from this adorable Regatta paper pack. I'm going to start with my thin cuts, and I'm loading them onto the base of my Cuttlebug piece and then adding some white daisy cardstock that I'm going to stamp on after I've cut out all the pieces. So the nice thing is I can load as many pieces of the thin cuts as I need to cut them all together at one time. I also did 2 pieces of paper on this one because I needed multiples of the cuts that I had. So you can do 2. We recommend no more than 3, but every time you add an extra piece of paper, you're going to want to crank it through back and forth as you saw me do a few times to make sure that that cut goes all the way through the multiple pieces of paper. Now I'm taking the little wave detail and I'm using the wave B&T paper so that those coordinate together. I'm using just a strip of washi tape to hold that in place because I'm working with such a little die and a thin piece of paper. So the washi tape is just helping me secure that together. And so I've got all my pieces ready to go, and now I'll start assembling cards. So I'm starting with a white card base, and then I'm adding a zip strip to the edge so that you can build up the layers. The zip strips are a perfect addition when you're creating cards because they add such a small but intense pop of pattern to your cards. So you can see I've used 2 zip strips as well as a piece of cardstock. So layering those pieces, I've got 3 different patterns all together. Now I'm going to stamp onto my images. I'm using sapphire ink here, and I'm stamping that little anchor onto the piece that I did from the thin cuts. Now I'm stamping the sentiment at the top that says "You are my," and then you'll see that the anchor kind of becomes the answer to the rest of that sentiment. And it nestles right up into that sentiment spot. So then to add another little touch of detail, I'm stamping 3 red hearts across the bottom of the image in pomegranate ink. Now I'm going to wrap the card with ribbon and tie it around so that it creates a knot. Trim off all your extra ribbon pieces to clean that up, and your card is finished. For the next card, I'm creating a top fold card, and I'm getting out my stamp set so that I can stamp some details right onto my project here. I've got the little boat image, and I'm lining up my thin cuts as well as my stamping. So on this little boat, you can see that you are going to do the base of the boat in one color, and then you can do the flag. It's a tiny separate stamp image, and I can stamp that in any color I want. So I'm choosing pomegranate just to give another little detail to this little boat that I'm creating. So now I'm going to stamp the lighthouse, and I'm going to stamp the bottom piece of the stamp in the flaxen ink and the top part in the pomegranate ink to give me that 2-toned look on one stamp image. Got 2 really fun, colorful stamp pieces, and then I'm going to stamp the heart again in that pomegranate ink on the piece that I cut from my thin cuts. So now my card's ready to build, and I'm going to dovetail both ends of this flaxen cardstock. So you saw I already had stamped my sentiment, but it was in the wrong space, and so I flipped over the cardstock, which is the beauty of double-sided cardstock, and I'm re-stamping my image in the right spacing. Because I want that lighthouse image to go over the right edge, that's why I had to re-stamp and scoot everything to the left. So now I'm assembling my card using that anchor B&T kind of as my water, then adding my sentiment at the top middle, and then I'm stamping just a few other little birds in the sky using glacier ink. Now I'm attaching the lighthouse with 3D foam tape so that that pops off of my card just a little bit, and then I'm going to add the heart and finish it off with all the different little details coming together. And there you have it. Now I'm going to take a square of this boat B&T and cut it diagonally by just putting it corner to corner in my paper trimmer. I'm attaching that to the corners of my card. Now I'm going to take strips of the red B&T and I'm using that to kind of add a second layer. So you want those to extend past the edges of your card and then just trim them off. So it's creating, again, just another strip of color and pattern to those corner pieces on the card. Now to cover up those seams, I'm using the ribbon and using glue dots to attach that, and again just trimming it at the angle so that it looks like it just flows right off the edge of the card. And you'll do that on both sides, and then you'll have a great base to start your card, and we'll decorate the center. Now, using my thin cuts and some of the stamp images that match up perfectly, I'm just lining up my stamp in glacier ink and adding some polka dot hearts to those cutout pieces. And now I want to put my sentiment right in the center of the card. I'm using sapphire ink to stamp the sentiment, "I just love our adventures together," and that goes right in the center of the card. Now I'm stamping some hearts in both flaxen and pomegranate ink directly to the card base to add another little pop of color. And then the glacier heart that I cut out with my thin cuts goes right underneath the bottom, and you can see how cute this entire card comes together. Now we're going to make a really fun seascape card by using the blue B&Ts that come with Regatta. They really do feel nautical when you use these two papers together. So I'm stamping the small sailboat in pomegranate ink. Now I'm going to stamp the larger boat in the flaxen ink, and then I'm going to use the sapphire ink to put the flag onto that boat. Now to add my sentiment, I'm stamping that right onto the white daisy cardstock strip in sapphire ink, and it says, "You keep me afloat." Next, you'll just want to dovetail one end of that cardstock piece, and now I'm attaching that blue B&T to the front of the page, which kind of gives me a full sky scenery, and then that darker blue piece is the base that kind of creates the water. Then I'm attaching that piece that I cut from my thin cuts that adds that wave detail to the top of the piece to really make it look like water. Then I'll add my boats to make it look like they're floating. So then I'm going to add my sentiment and a few of the puffies and a few stamped birds in sapphire ink to finish off this card. And there you have it.